How about them Cowboys? Angry Cowboys fan. Born to battle. Some just means we never sell. America's team through thick and thin. When the sun shines bright, that's where we win. Angry Cowboys fan.
What's going on, Cowboys Nation and Angry Cowboys fans around the world? Y'all know who it is. It's your man, the Angry Cowboys Fan. And y'all know that the most hated topic when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys is George Pickens and his contract negotiations. On this morning's episode of Get Up, Mike Greenberg, Adam Schefter, Tim Hasselbeck, and Jordan Rodgers discuss the contract situation with George Pickens and the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to take a listen to the 3 clips that I got for y'all, and y'all know what we're going to do. We're going to come back and unpack this raw and uncut. So, Angry Cowboys fans, let's go ahead and take a listen to the first clip where Adam Schefter gives his perspective on the conundrum, which is the long-term George Pickens contract with the Dallas Cowboys.
Now, let's start by saying that if the two sides can reach agreement on a long-term deal, all that goes away.
Right.
George Pickens is happy. He's playing there under a long-term deal, and there are no other issues. But as it is right now, he's under the franchise tag. He's not going to sign the franchise tag anytime soon, which means he's not going to be at the offseason program because, number one, he's not allowed to be, and number two, he wouldn't want to be. They have until the middle of July to work out a long-term deal. If they cannot work out that long-term deal, then I would assume we wouldn't see George Pickens for the better part of the summer, maybe until shortly before the start of the season. He's not going to want to miss any paychecks that are well over $1 million a week. So we could expect to see him again shortly before the season, not taking part in the offseason program, maybe missing most of training camp. Now you're exposed to muscle pulls, hamstring strains, whatever it may be. Plus you have a player who's not particularly enthralled with the idea that he didn't get the contract that he wanted, and he's going to be thinking about free agency. There are a whole lot of elements here that make it a troubling, potentially troubling situation for the Cowboys.
All I'm saying, Adam Schefter, is that when Jerry Jones spoke with George Pickens before the Pro Bowl, he was all set in getting franchise tag. He knew what was going to happen. But I tell you this, Cowboys Nation, these talking heads speak in absolutes, and I don't understand why. Adam Schefter speaks as if he looked into his crystal ball and saw George Pickens laying on a medical table during training camp just like Micah Parsons did. Why? All because they share the same agent, Cowboys Nation? Let's not forget that Trevor Smith is George Pickens' true agent, while David Mulugheta is a consultant in the same talent agency, Athletes First. Now let's go ahead and jump into the second clip where Tim Hasselbeck gives his take on the matter, and y'all know there has to be a babyface as well as a heel in these type of debates, just like the WWE, just like professional wrestling. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
I think this situation, though, and we're obviously talking about the Cowboys every single offseason, and it seems it's contract related. I've been critical in the past because I think the Cowboys have been, quite frankly, cheap in the past in terms of how they've dealt with some of their star players. This one's totally different for me, and I think some of it, is going to require a little bit of patience on Pickens' perspective. Look, he was shipped out of Pittsburgh because, basically there was some kind of just maturity issues in Pittsburgh, and then he goes and has a career year in Dallas. To think that you're going to become one of the highest paid, players at your position after 1 year in Dallas, I don't think is really fair for the Cowboys to kind of agree to that. And so I do think that Pickens, while he may not love the franchise tag, that he's, staring at playing on, some of it is his own doing in Pittsburgh of why he's in that situation. And so in some ways, or in a lot of ways, I side with, kind of Jerry Jones's posture in this situation.
Oh, damn, Cowboys Nation. He was spitting bars. I mean, Tim Hasselbeck was speaking facts right there. But I would have to agree with Tim Hasselbeck, and I know other Cowboys fans would agree with it as well. Jerry Jones has been the issue when it comes to signing these top players before it becomes an issue. It happened with Dak Prescott. It happened with CeeDee Lamb. It happened with Ezekiel Elliott, and the list goes on. At the same time, Jerry might be right in this situation, because who would want to pay a player who had one top-tier year for your organization? I know I wouldn't, Cowboys Nation. But let's go ahead and jump into the third clip so we can come back and unpack this raw and uncut.
Yeah, I think Jerry's got to be careful with that posture. It's delicate. Yes, I agree with Tim. Like, he's in the right. Like, that this is the reality of playing the position. Like, there is franchise tags. But did you not learn with how the negotiation went with Micah Parsons and sticking to your guns on a handshake deal for you to come out and say, hey, this is what you signed up for? You know what you have in Pickens. You know there's some volatility personality-wise. You want him bought in. But I think the reality is, and maybe this is why Jerry's doing it, he is more of a luxury than a necessity. And I don't mean that to disparage how good of a player he is. But defensively, this Dallas Cowboys team was terrible. That's what's holding them back from taking the next step. So the signings of Quinnen Williams and Kenny Clark and Rashawn Gary, that's going to be the difference maker. That is the priority, that side of the ball. Pickens is great. You want him bought in. You want him there. But the defense is what's going to be a make or break for them.
You know, Cowboys Nation, I have never heard of Jordan Rodgers or even saw him on Get Up, so I really don't know who he is. What I do know, he was spitting some bars right there. He did have some good things to say, but I would disagree with him comparing the situation with Micah Parsons and George Pickens. I would have to disagree with that, but let's dive into it a little bit more, shall we? Y'all ready for this raw and uncut? Y'all ready? Let's get it. Get ready for the Angry Cowboys fans, raw and uncut.
Keeping it real, man. Keep it real. That's real.
You know, Cowboys Nation, a part of me can't stand when Adam Schefter gets on TV and speaks as if he knows what's going down, as if everything is set in stone, that he speaks in absolutes. I understand that he's been around the league for a long-ass time, and he's seen a lot. But not two contract negotiations are the same, Cowboys Nation. You can't sit up there and say, because this happened to Micah Parsons, it's going to happen to George Pickens. You may be dealing with the same agent, but I honestly believe you're dealing with two different type of player mentalities, two different player mindsets. But Shefty's up there talking in absolutes, saying that George Pickens isn't going to show up or he's not going to be happy, blah, blah, blah. How do you know, Adam Schefter? I've said this before. Not every player's pissed off when they get franchise tagged. Some look at it as a chance to double dip at the bag, as well as being able to prove themselves that they deserve the top bag in the league. But I like what Tim Hasselbeck said in this segment, though. It's gonna require some patience from George Pickens when it comes to getting the bag from Jerry Jones. I personally feel that Jerry Jones feels that getting ahead of the deal, getting it done early, is a sign of weakness to him. That's my own personal opinion. I'm not saying that Jerry Jones actually thinks that way, but that's my opinion. A sign of desperation, and that's when you get fleeced in the long run. I also believe that if a player shows up and he shows that he's a team player and that he'll make himself available to the team, he'll end up getting a nice bag from Jerry Jones. I feel the only reason why it took CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott so much time is because they were at the top of their position group, and the Dallas Cowboys didn't have any alternative if they didn't come to an agreement with those two players. In this situation, George Pickens is not the only top-tier wide receiver on the team, and like Jordan Rodgers said, Pickens is more of a luxury than a necessity. And that actually stuck out to me in this segment, Cowboys Nation. Jordan Rodgers spit a bar when he said that George Pickens is a luxury more than a necessity. Could the Dallas Cowboys find a wide receiver that's not quite George Pickens' talent, but a better talent than Jalen Tolbert at the wide receiver 2 position? Absolutely they could. I actually made a video back in the past on who could be an alternative just in case Jerry Jones decided to trade George Pickens to another team. Does that mean that I want them to trade him to another team? Hell no, Cowboys Nation. I want George Pickens to be on the Dallas Cowboys. That's something that Cowboys fans have been screaming for. To stop trading and drafting to fill depth pieces and roster pieces, but to draft and trade players that could potentially take the place of your top receiver or your top person at that position. That's what George Pickens is. And now that we have a player like that in the building, some have gone back on that particular want for our team. But trading George Pickens does have to be in the back of our minds, Cowboys Nation. I refuse to allow Jerry Jones to surprise me yet again. I didn't think that he would trade Micah Parsons, and when he did it, I was super shocked, Cowboys Nation. But the more I think about it now, the more it made sense to me. Also, being prepared for a move doesn't mean that you have to like the move or be on board with said move. It just means that you're ahead of the curve, Cowboys Nation. You're prepared for what you don't want to happen just in case it happens and it doesn't wreck your emotions like it normally does. But in my personal opinion, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. If George Pickens shows up to training camp ready to be a team player, I feel Jerry Jones will bust the budget. He will bust out that checkbook and give the money that he requires. Not showing any type of engagement during training camp, actively holding in while laying on a medical table talking about phantom back pains. That will get you traded to a team like the Las Vegas Raiders. But this is a delicate situation on both ends, Cowboys Nation. Sure, Athletes First is an aggressive talent agency, but could also be too aggressive, being a detriment to the player that they're representing. Also, Jerry Jones can be a person that screws up the process, thinking that he's being the smartest man in the room when he actually isn't. One thing that both sides forget to represent in that type of situation is the player's wants, the player's desires, the player's happiness. But if I were the Dallas Cowboys, I would be prepping myself and my team for the possibility of George Pickens not being in a Dallas Cowboys uniform in 2026. I would be looking at free agency as well as the draft to find his replacement. And I know Cowboys Nation would be pissed off at the fact, but I would use one of those first-round picks on a wide receiver that could possibly take the spot of George Pickens while shopping the idea of Pickens to a team like the Raiders or the Browns. This way, you could add a premier pass rusher to your defense, because believe me, after the Las Vegas Raiders acquired Kirk Cousins, they'll be looking to couple him as well as Mendoza with a premier wide receiver, possibly opening up a trade for Max Crosby. But this has been your man, the Angry Cowboys Fan. Cowboys Nation, what do you feel about what the guys over on Get Up had to say? Who do you agree with? Schefter, Hasselbeck, Rodgers, myself, or your take? Y'all know how we do. We always talk about it in the comment section. If you're digging this content and you want to help the channel reach its current goal of 20,000 subscribers, drop a like on this video, share this content, and if you're on your mobile device, make sure you hype this video. Doing so can make sure that even more Dallas Cowboys fans will see the content and want to join the ACF family. And if you are DC for life and you just want Jerry Jones to either get the deal done or get the trade going, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to be notified whenever I go live, release a video, podcast episode, or film breakdowns. You can catch the Madden 26 of college football 26 gameplay on my other channel, the Angry Cowboys Fan Gaming Channel. I'll make sure I put the link to that as well as my gamer tag in the description. And I personally don't want to get rid of George Pickens, Cowboys Nation. I believe that he fits well with the Dallas Cowboys offense, and if we're looking at a 3-year window, we don't have time for a rookie wide receiver to get acclimated to the Dallas Cowboys system. Let's go ahead and get George Pickens signed so we can move into the draft not needing to worry about a wide receiver 2 replacement. But this has been your man, the Angry Cowboys Fan, and I'm out. Dang, Angry Cowboys Fan, you done made it through the entire video. But if you want more content, you can definitely go to this video right here. Or if you want the latest episode of the Angry Cowboys Fan podcast, you can go right here. But whatever you do, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, but remain DC for life.